because that's what we do. Have great things coming up, and I want to tell you, next week, those two people right there, these venerable ones of the Coles family, along with their, reasonable daughter, Catherine Coles, are all reading here. And so you want to come back for that, so, sort of celebrate the Coles family and, hear them read from their work and just sort of, applaud what they have done for our state in literature. So please come for that. And in a couple of weeks, we have Steve Langan reading. So it's the fourth week. We usually don't do four weeks in any month, but this year we are, because we got Steve Langan coming in, who's wonderful. If you don't know his work, the most recent Sugar House Review has a couple of his poems in it, so you can look it in there or look him up online. He's really terrific. And he's reading with Lance Larson, the Poet Laureate of Utah. So it's not bad. It's good. It's National Poetry Month, and that's how things work around here. So Shen is going to read first. So Shen Christiansen's fiction has appeared in Story Quarterly, Alaskan Quarterly Review, Hayden's Ferry Review, Denver Quarterly, Nebraska Review, Painted Bride Quarterly, Black Ridge Review. She got her MFA from the University of Utah in 1994. I was thinking about this today because you were in the program when I came in 1992, right? Right in 1990, that is. So I've known her a long time. And she was in a great couple of workshops with me, including one with Deborah Eisenberg, and that's how I got to know her first, and I got to know her work then. And I love her work, and I have several other people in this room that were in that same workshop, and it's what fun that is. Anyway, her fictions, I already did. She was a Story Magazine first place for short story, Atlantic top 10 finalist for short story, Chicago Magazine winner, and so on, Utah short story competition second place, and her work appeared in the anthologies, the Way We Live anthology and What There Is, the Crossroads Anthology. I'm so happy that she's back with us reading tonight. Welcome, Shen Christiansen.
Thank you, Joel. I told Joel I didn't know the years that anything had happened, and he would have to ask Kirsten and Hayden and when those days. So I'm just gonna start reading to explain why I did start writing again. It's called Casses. Prologue. The throb of something wrong rolled for a date before I swallowed some of my expired painkillers and told AJ it felt like combustible stone in my stomach, lava under my skin. It took 2 days of it, me reenacting those long ago learned natural childbirth lessons to control pains, make each muscle unclench, heaved abdominal breathing, picture whatever seems nice, maybe sunlight dripping off glaciers to a grassy spot on a granite mountain. Also a depleted hoard of pills before I called my doctor. It is a bold act to tell your trouble to someone. I am cold-footed, tongue-tied. And we acclimatize to things that hurt. Each breath, the time my ribs were smashed when I was little, run over at the bottom of a tow rope ski slope by some jolly family in a wooden toboggan. Our breaks, burns, cuts, and cramps are part of life. We fall, we get damaged in a crash, which totaled the car I was not old enough to be driving. Our teeth decay, unlucky organs revolt, gallbladder, skin melanoma. Someone scrapes them out, and the scars fade to hard, pale sparks. The urinary tract maneuvers starting when I was 6 or 7, those doctor appointments with the incrementally growing metal urethra dilators continued for years, wounds to move past. Of course I'd accumulated women's problems, uterine cysts, biopsy and ablation, sudden heart damage. Pain is a simple part of life. If we exempt the writhing, beyond bearing moments, our flesh, shocked by assault, has not yet accepted, assimilated, normalized. The way I remember the suffering at the births of you four, you, my 4 blood children. What it feels like is labor contractions, I explained when I phoned my physician. If it's that bad, we suggest you be seen at the ER, my doctor's medical assistant unhelpfully deflected. There isn't really anything an office visit would accomplish. I went back to swallowing, self-hypnosis. The afternoon of pain, day 3, AJ drove me to the new Intermountain Hospital emergency entrance. It astonished both of us when we were not seated to wait our turn to report our insurance information before waiting our turn to be called back to a curtained cubicle to wait to be seen. My face must have looked like a head's on a spike, my skin raw egg white. The admitting nurse instantly called an aide who led me directly to a bed with an embarrassing gown crisply folded upon it. Wonderful nurses, one of them ready with an IV of morphine before I was even pulled to the CT machine. Wonderful doctors who explained that my bowel was twisted, was genetically weird, too long and loose, was going to kill me unless I had surgery. How soon? I wanted to call my savvy, connected friend Lynn, assure myself top-tier care. If I had to be opened again, I wanted to find a man I could trust. Look, the squat, harried doctor said, you've got a cecal volvulus with acute presentation. It will require a long midline incision to prevent rupture of the gangrenous segment. Depending on the necrosis of the intestinal wall and venous strangulation, you will need partial bowel resurrection. Perhaps with a colostomy, you've got a rather rare anatomic variation resulting in extracolonic loops. The optimal strategy for lowered mortality risk has not been determined. We've postponed our next surgeries to push you in. You've got till we close up the case we have on the table before you go under. Suddenly a resident with little John Lennon glasses was patting my feet, saying there were risks with all surgeries, anesthesia. The odds of having a colostomy bag were there, yes, but that was nothing. What was important was that I pull through. Nurses were giving me papers with X's to point out where I should sign. AJ asking the residents questions. How long would the operation take? What exactly the hell had that surgeon been saying? What the fuck was the prognosis? The worst thing about hospitals really isn't the smell. It's the fluorescent lights and the chiming and beeps, murmurs. Next week was my birthday, 53, a middling long life. AJ and I had been together 19 years and I felt glad for that, for the time I'd had with this perceptive, difficult, word-fiery man. His black beard was going gray. He was mostly bald. He no longer looked like a Middle Eastern terrorist. People no longer automatically moved out of his way on the sidewalk in airports. It could have been the pain medication, but the rocks we'd been throwing for years, my distrust, his equivocations, our distances, our angers, felt smoothed, eroded. His arrogant nose, his plump lips, big bones. He, more than anyone, understands. I do not want anyone else. If I die, will you still be a father to them? That isn't a question. AJ turned my chin so I saw him straight on. I am their dad. He gave me his cell phone. Skip some. Calmly, I spoke to each of you. I did not say goodbye. All those years ago, I raged, begged, screamed for the time to arrive when I could be done. Tell you 4 children goodbye. No pain meds hidden then until they expired. Too tempting to have a fast out, something I hadn't the right to be near, must avoid, like driving the spiraling roads up the canyon. Now I felt sweet unspooling. Whatever happened was allowable. You 4 could manage. You were magnificent. I could let go. And Chandra, Marissa, Kimberly, Nick, you would flourish. All I needed to do was say I loved you. Love you so much. Where were words that could carry it? Nurses drew blood, swept my hair into a cap as I juggled the phone ear to ear. In some language, there must be ways for a mother to say what she feels for her children. So much. what I should say. You all know I love you. What I couldn't say, what I have never said. It has never come out of my throat, not fully. The canker squats in my windpipe, never assimilated. Not with AJ, not to therapists, not to my dearest friends, not to one of you four. What I needed to tell you, what you did not know. Or, at most, could only dimly recall. You were all little, so young it can be only gray. What you might need someday, a grasp of phantoms, I had not provided. I had not had the backbone to look back and let you know what is there. Guilt, self-condemnation, my familiars, began arriving at the muffled edges of morphine. AJ rubbed liquid soap on my knuckles, trying to pry off my rings. He was stuffing my clothes in a white and blue plastic bag. What you don't know? My woe. The past I have battered, labored to bury, staked any part that exploded came unearthed. Unnormalized it remains, memories embalmed by brain shape-shifting chemicals. I am your mother, the one who, with whatever decay, can summon it. If I awoke from this operation, I would have to call it my hauntings, for you. Because no matter how my mind makes the past shift and flicker, no matter that so much of it still I do not comprehend, I am the adult who was with you, the mother. AJ kissed me in the hallway while I was wheeled towards unconsciousness. And after surgery, I did not think my life was strong enough yet to cut at the wrappings. Not till the scars stopped presenting unexpected infections. By now, I think that unlikely. Here, I can only offer it through my eyes, explain with my life through who I was and no longer am. My exercised words are the only way to what I owe you, what sometime you might want to have to have, need to cast out. Your story. Waiting rooms. The reception area of Intermountain Sexual Abuse Treatment Center is bigger than our pediatrician's waiting room, and blander. No primary colors, Disney music, no fish swimming fruitlessly. There is one of those contraptions of looping colored wire for kids to slide beads along, a few ripped up highlights magazines, and boxes with puzzles. There is only one other person waiting, a woman older and fatter than I am, who won't make eye contact. The discreetly placed trash can has been used by somebody too lazy to go to the women's room to change their baby. The whole beige place smells of poopy diaper. My baby is home, 15-month-old Nicholas, along with 3-year-old Kami. Bill said of course he'd watch them while I'm gone. He's taken off work. I bring only Chandra and Marissa, the two oldest, because they are the ones that could, possibly, have been exposed. The previous fall, I had tended my friend's kids for a week while she and her husband enjoyed a second honeymoon in Hawaii. And I had found out this week, my friend had tearfully told me, that her sweet little boys, 8, 6, and 5, had been sexually molested by the newly accused neighborhood pedophile. One of her sons is in 3rd grade with Chandra, another a kindergartner, pals with Marissa. My friend needed my words of solace and my support. Parents in Mueller Canyon are already splitting. Those who believe the sickening rumors, those who think the gossip wrong, lies, a witch hunt. The man who'd been named is married, not homosexual. He's an architect, designed some of our custom homes, the new county jail. He pays his church tithing. The list of purported victims keeps growing. How could he have abused children from so many of our Mormon families? The sons of the owners of Smith's grocery store chain? The children of the vice president of Rocky Mountain Power and Light? Now a nurse has reported what she'd observed with my friend's children who'd stayed at my house for a week. I've tried to bolster up my friend. I believe it. I am sophisticated about threats to small people. After all, my mother founded Intermountain Sexual Abuse Treatment, the first therapy center in Utah to deal specifically with child sex abuse. She had been looking for a new cause. Utah Girls Village, Camp Uinta, Utah Youngstown. My mother had begun these nonprofits to help downtrodden kids before I'd finished high school. Her research into what Utah youngsters needed in 1980 had turned up this unexpected problem. Children in Salt Lake City were being sexually exploited by adults, sometimes by men the kids knew. Almost always, in fact. 85% of the occurrences perpetrated by males who were known by the victims. Horrifying, shocking, something I thought belonged only in fiction. Of course I'd been teary-eyed reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, but Maya Angelou's life was as dumbfounding and achy and unlike anything real to me as the characters created by William Faulkner. Nobody I knew had ever met anyone who actually had been molested. There had been back then no headlines about pedophile priests, perverted Boy Scout leaders, sports figures who stalked children. No celebrities had talked about bad stuff that happened when they were kids. Nobody had envisaged anything going wrong in a daycare center or at a child's birthday party. In the 1960s, the public believed that adults did not deliberately shake babies, break children's bones. In the early 1980s, child sexual abuse, certainly in Utah, was not part of society's consciousness. There had not been an article in the local newspaper section ever about this type of crime. In 1975, the frequency of predatory sexualized behavior towards related children, according to Kaplan and Sadok's tome, The Comprehensive Textbook of Psychiatry, was estimated as 1 in a million. Utah's whole population was less than 2 million. How could this be our problem? To persuade funding networks, my mother had to convince her social circles to accept information from the brand new rape crisis centers, feminists, and recent national surveys, women's livers, which were starting to accumulate figures claiming 15 to 20% of girls in America had been molested by the time they turned sweet 16. Several Salt Lake social workers, the women who turned my mom's focus to face this creepiness, backed her, shared some of their own anonymous cases, claimed this nastiness was real, was here. They helped Mom convince civic leaders and an apostle in the Mormon hierarchy to stand up for the unheard victims, put their money where their mouths were, for the children. And now perverted things happening to children I cared for. Last night I'd been sitting on Bill's side of our jade-splotched comforter, crying like I hadn't to my friend about her children. How could somebody do that, I sobbed. How can those kids ever have normal lives? Bill had his arm around my shoulder, comforting me, reminding me what great parents our friends were. We don't understand it. We don't know everything yet, he said, holding me. He had strong forearms, long hands. This is when it abruptly occurred to me. During the week-long sleepover, my friends' boys might have tried out the inappropriate behavior that had been inflicted on them upon our own kids. What if? The thought is unbearable, difficult to construct even to my husband. I can't explore it. My life's work is keeping my kids safe and happy. Bill had rocked me against his chest, held me tight. Our marriage isn't perfect, but when it comes to the children, he is as vulnerable as I am. He loves them as much. It was Bill who said, let's take them to ISAT, let's get them seen. A therapist should ask them about it, find out if they're okay. Then we'll know. Chandra and Marissa, 8 and 6, are not happy about being pulled out of school to come to this Intermountain Sexual Abuse Treatment appointment. They adore school. They excel in everything except penmanship. They are both reading as we sit and wait, Like me, both are hungry readers, treasuring books. Unlike me, they are carefully dressed. Chandra is wearing a pink shirt under Oshkosh overalls. Marissa is in red corduroy pants and her favorite sweater decorated with a parade of yellow ducks. It's January. They have on rubber snow boots. I've spent more time on their hair than on my own. I always do. Their adorableness is much more important to my sense of vanity than however I look. My uniform is an easy-wash, vomit-safe shirt, jeans, untrimmed post-hippie hair. I look like what I am, a 31-year-old homemaker, dowdy, determined. The therapist, Barbara, comes out from a hallway and introduces herself. She is currently my mother's closest friend. She knows how to pronounce Chandra's name, and she leads her off down the hall. Marissa, trained at being second, keeps reading. I resume The World According to Garp. Frankly, this is a break. I've recovered from my freak-out. My kids are too normal to have had anything happen. I've always, as Bill tells me, made mountains from molehills. Been too emotional, my parents say. I've spent the day soothed by the humdrum of the children, how much noise there was over oatmeal, the scramble to locate bags, mittens, coats while carrying the baby, driving the 3-year-old's carpool to gymnastics class where Kami, laughing, flopping sideways in every attempt at a forward roll, let Nicholas bounce with her on the trampoline. Kami clinging to her dad's neck, Nicholas safe in the crook of Bill's other arm when I left home to pick up the big girls. Come here. In a fast 50 minutes, Chandra is done and Marissa clomps away in her boots after Barbara. What did you talk about? I want to know. What I like. Chandra likes to announce herself. To her world, to me. We played and I colored. She says I'm a real good colorer, but I wrote what things are and put arrows so Barbara wouldn't say it was good when she doesn't know what it is actually. She is leaning over my legs, drawing on my lap with a finger. I like cats and My Little Ponies, and I like mermaids too. She likes attention. I told stories with Barbara's dolls, but stuffed animals are better. I am good at stories and playing pretend, you know. I made up doll stories and got them all dressed, and then there was no time to play. Will there be time when we get home, before piano? When Marissa returns, she and Barbara are smiling, holding hands. Barbara asks the girls to wait just a moment while she shows me their drawings, leads me to her office. Look at these. She waves her hand over papers crayoned with rainbows, smiling flowers under fluffy blue clouds, a winged unicorn labeled Pegacorn, a square red house, nothing like ours, where Chandra has written smoke and made an arrow pointing at black squiggling out of the chimney. Your kids are great. She tells me how bright they are, explains that they are well attached to our family, demonstrated no anxieties about their friends, including the kids I had babysat. Honestly, Barbara says, these are happy, well-adjusted girls. You can relax. She shuffles through a pile of black and white photographs, pulls out one depicting a shadowy man leaning over a half-naked boy. When I asked Marissa what this could be, she said maybe it was a family getting ready to go to a water slide. You wouldn't want to hear the things I get from kids who've had trauma, or see what they draw. Well, they aren't really artists. I laugh, acting humble. I am so proud of my smart, silly daughters. Barbara chuckles along. Anything else? Any concerns about your younger ones? Any other situations you feel strange about? I pause. Yes.